told you, it is.
Oh, hello! At last I find myself behind the wheel of a VW Golf R. Now, I'm a little bit late to the party, considering this car has been around for about 7 years now, and is going out of production soon. But, in my defence, I didn't have a YouTube channel when this car came out. And also, I think this is quite a good time to be driving one of these because these are getting quite cheap. You can get an early Mk7 Golf R for as little as 13 to 15 grand these days. That's very reasonable. And that's probably going to go down a little bit more when the Mark 8 comes out later this year. That being said, this one I'm in currently is not an early cheap one. This is a brand new 19 plate Golf R. We've got all the bits, we've got the digital dials, slightly facelifted interior. It's very snazzy. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, I've always had two problems with the Golf R, even before having ever driven one. There's two things about it that have always bugged me. The first one is the way it looks. This one I'm in now is very smart. I'm a sucker for a murdered out black on black paint job. It looks cool. But in general, the Golf R is very normal looking. I don't think there's any car as fast as this that looks so regular. And I know that VW always lean over to the subtle, understated side of things. I get that, but this is too far in that direction. Look, I'm not saying it should have looked like the Civic Type R. It doesn't need crazy wings. I hate the way that looks too. But surely there is like a middle ground where it looks cool and sporty, but it's not too crazy. i30N, there we go. That's hot hatch middle ground. All hot hatches should look like the i30N. I have spoken. In fact, looking at the exterior of this car, the only clue that this thing is really fast are those quad exhaust tips at the back. And look, I'm all for quad exhaust tips, by all means. But they don't quite make sense on this thing because the car they're on looks so normal. It's a bit strange. The other beef that I have with this car, and if you watch my videos, you can probably guess what this is. I don't like that it's four-wheel drive. I'm kind of fundamentally against four-wheel drive hot hatches. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's not what a hot hatch should be. It shouldn't have tons of grip and crazy power. It should be nimble and chuckable and silly. And generally speaking, four-wheel drive cars aren't. I've driven an R32, which is the car that preceded this one, and it's a very different beast, but that was four-wheel drive, and it just felt like it didn't want to be unsettled. It didn't want you to drive it like crazy. It just wanted to be kept within its limitations, and I guess I worry that that trait will have crossed over to this car. Essentially what I'm saying is, based on the way it looks and the fact that it's four-wheel drive, I've always had this idea in my head that the Golf R is going to be quick and impressive, but a bit sanitized, a bit sensible. First things first, interior. Now, I had my first experience of a Mk7 recently when I drove the TCR, but it was a terrible rush, so I didn't really get to do that kind of thing. I've just got to say how nice it is in here. It's essentially a 7-year-old cabin now, and it feels brand new. It's so nice in here. But more than that, and I'm going to go full Auto Express here for a second, it's ergonomically perfect. And what I mean by that is everything is just exactly where it should be. Not just the steering wheel, seat and pedals, those are lovely, but like the buttons for the radio and the headlight switch and the windscreen wipers, everything is just exactly right, and I don't think anyone does that better than VW. Let's talk about noise very quickly. I kind of feel like this is one area where the Golf R was always a bit doomed because, again, it had to follow the R32, and the R32 sounds like this. Whereas the Golf R sounds like this. Good sounding car, but it's no R32. That's a famously, legendarily amazing sounding car. But it would be a bit ridiculous to judge this thing compared to the R32 based on noise. The R32 sounds incredible. The Golf R is better in literally every other measurable way that there is. All of them. All of them. What else am I noticing? Damping, super, super nice. I've always said that's one of my favorite things about the GTI cars is they judge the suspension so well so that it is way more comfy than your average performance car, hot hatch, but it's not compromising the handling at all. I think the GTIs are a little bit like iPhones. They kind of go evolution, revolution. The Mark 5 was a massive improvement on the Mark 4. Yes, it was. Don't at me in the comments. Mark 6, slight improvement. They kind of just, it was essentially a facelift. And then Mark 7, massive improvement again. This is a very, very different car to the Mark 6. So, is it fast? Yeah, it's really fast actually. The combination of that horsepower, the DSG, and the four-wheel drive, it feels just about as quick as anything. I think on English roads, you'd struggle to go any faster in just about any car at all. And now, for completely scientific reasons, I'm going to launch it. So, very easy. Press this button here until the beep. Beep. Left foot on the brake. Right foot flat. See ya! Oh! That's outrageous! The thing is, none of what I've said so far is really that surprising. It's a fast Golf. Of course it's got a nice cabin. Of course it's really nice to live with. Of course it's really fast. It's got nearly 300 horsepower. The surprise with this car, the thing I was not ready to say, is it's a lot of fun. If you put it into a sporty setting and you start getting a bit silly, the car is happy to oblige. It really doesn't mind being thrown around. In fact, it's very happy to. I was horribly wrong about this thing. Four-wheel drive does not automatically make a hot hatchback feel sensible and boring. This car is perfectly happy to misbehave when you want it to. I suppose really the biggest competition that this thing faces these days is the new GTI TCR that I drove the other day. Because now there's two nearly 300 horsepower fast Golfs. One's front-wheel drive, one's four-wheel drive. You take your pick. I think really it comes down to personal preferences. For me, I would probably, if buying new, take the TCR. I think I would, simply because I like front-wheel drive in hot hatches, I really do. And the TCR, a little bit more exclusive, a little bit more unusual. You're going to see less of them on the road. However, that's my personal preference. If you want to launch like we just did then, I would not blame you for taking the R. And what's more, if you're buying used, the fact that you can get one of these for sub 15 grand now, it's an outrageous amount of car for the money. Outrageous. If you're looking to buy a sporty car that you're planning on daily driving and you've got 15 grand or more to spend, I'm telling you, don't buy anything until you've driven one of these. Because it's that classic Golf thing. You will find other cars that are a little bit louder. You might find something that's a bit sexier or more unusual. But you won't find anything that's so good at everything. No wonder they sold millions of these things.